Right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So, I don't know much about this Dan Bilzerian. Is that how you say his name? I have no idea, mate. But apparently, he's being proper anti Semitic on the Piers Morgan Uncensored show. So, we're going to react to it and see what it's all about. Now, I did see a little clip earlier, that's why I've clicked on it. Apparently, just pre warning you, he denies the. He doesn't. I don't think he denies the Holocaust, but he definitely what do you call it? Yeah, Dan Bilzerian. Don't know much about him, but apparently he denies, not denies, but he says a certain amount of people didn't die in the Holocaust. So I don't know. Just warning you, it's got some graphic talk in there about the Holocaust and Jews and all that stuff. But yeah, let's get into it. See what it's all about. Don't know much about this guy. Like I said, let's go.
You've got a big following, 30 odd million people on Instagram. But just to say, well, I read somewhere there were no rapes and abuse, would go against your own narrative. Would that be fair? Yahya Sinwar, you were lauding him as a hero.
Hamas is a resistance organization. Israel is a terrorist. Every single person that's been critical of Israel has either been killed or thrown out of power. And I don't think that that is a coincidence. I mean, as a veteran, where I really have, huge problems with this.
What do you mean the Jews killed JFK?
Today, a lot of conspiracy theories have all come true. I believe that Jewish supremacy is the greatest threat to the world today.
It sounds to me, Dan,
Of course he
like
does.
you do actually hate Jewish people.
If you say anything about Jewish people, you get canceled.
I'm honestly gobsmacked.
I don't have a hatred for Jewish people.
You obviously do. I'm staggered about how brazen you've been. Makes Kanye look like a choir boy.
Yeah, I just don't really give a shit.
Henry VIII, Arthur at the Round Table, Elvis Presley. History and popular culture has given us many famous kings. None of them quite like Dan Bilzerian, known to millions of people as the king of Instagram. A superstar poker player, he racked up a vast following by documenting his unfettered hedonism, a lifestyle of beautiful women on beautiful yachts and beautiful places. Some say he was Andrew Tate before Andrew Tate, but Dan Bilzerian says that that life is behind him now. The king is dead. He's back with a new outlook, a new agenda, and some very controversial opinions. So Dan Bilzerian, first of all, welcome to Uncensored. I kind of feel if I'd interviewed you 4 years ago, we'd have had a very different interview. You're at the height of your kind of hedonistic Instagram life. There were women everywhere, yachts everywhere, guns everywhere, drugs everywhere. It was a very different lifestyle to the one you have now. So my first question is, who is the new Dan Bilzerian and why have you given up the other guy?
Well, I think I took hedonism to the end of the earth, and I just realized that it didn't bring me happiness. So I started focusing on things that I like to do and did less of that.
I read that you were at your peak with the women, for example. If you only slept with 2 women a day, you thought that was a disappointing off day. And now you're down to just 1 woman. That's a pretty dramatic shift in your lifestyle, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, it was up to 9 at one day at one point, and it was just
Up to 9 in one day. Yeah, that's something to be so proud of, isn't it, mate? It would be an off day if it was 2 a day. Right.
it was a lot. I think a lot of that is probably fueled by insecurity from high school, not getting as many women as I wanted. And like I said, I just kind of took the pleasure seeking to the end of the earth. And with pleasure, I think it's kind of functions like a drug to where you need more to get the same feeling. And then eventually you have to do it to not feel like shit. And so, yeah, I just cut off the hedonism.
You even disappeared from Instagram for nearly a year. You only came back in May. Why did you do that? What was going on in your world in that period?
Well, I mean, I was writing a book. I think that was a big focus, and that took a lot of time. And then I was just pretty much over it. I looked at social media like a video game that I beat and that everybody else wanted to play, and I was just kind of tired of playing. And the only reason I really came back was because I felt like I had this big platform, and I really disagreed with what was going on in Israel, that we were funding this genocide. And so I felt like I had an obligation to use my platform to say what I, thought was right.
I'm going to come to Israel because you've said a lot of controversial things about that war. But before we get there, I just want to just explore a little bit more your decision to kind of renounce the king lifestyle. And I think I'm right in saying that you
Straight off the bat, he's looking a bit cold there, Danny boy. Oh no.
you kind of worked out you can have all the money in the world, but ultimately, if you don't work out what actually makes you happy, you're not going to be happy. Did you work out, other than not leading life to excess, did you work out the little things in life that actually made you happy?
Yeah, and I found that most of them didn't require that much money. Surfing, hanging out with my friends, working out, just doing things that I like to do, physically, and, playing cards, whatever. Just none of it really required that much money. And I found that I was chasing a lot of these things that didn't really make me happy. And so I just cut it off.
How rich are you?
Depending on the value of my company on any given day, probably 200 to 300 million.
I mean, that's a staggering amount of money. And yet you kind of worked out money doesn't buy you happiness. Does it buy you like security? Is that the best thing about money, that you don't have to worry about money?
Yeah, and I think freedom as well. Freedom's a big piece of it. Not having to answer to anybody, being able to say what you believe, and not have to worry about paying bills and those sort of things. I think that's one of the biggest things that money gives you. And like I said, the freedom to do what you want. But as far as like material things, I think you get pretty tired of it pretty quick. And yeah, I just don't really give a shit.
I mean, it's a fascinating change in your life. There'll be some skeptics who go, well, he doesn't really mean this. He'll be back doing the other stuff before long. This is just a stunt because he's an Instagram guy. Why wouldn't it be? What do you say to that?
Saving money on flights is a breeze on Kayak, Heather. Kayak compares prices from hundreds of travel sites to...
Well, I mean, I've pretty much stopped posting on Instagram. I haven't posted much in 4 years. And like I said, I don't really care that much about social media except for, speaking about things that I think the world needs to hear and that a lot of people are scared to say.
Well, let's talk about some of that, because you've been very vocal about Israel in particular. Even when Yahya Sinwar, the head of...
Just want to make something clear, guys. I watch a lot of commentary channels and reaction channels. That's what's made me started to make my own reaction channel. I want to be clear about the Israel, Gaza, Palestine situation. I do not know much about it. I don't know who's good, who's bad, all that sort of stuff. I'm not very educated on it. But what I do know is, it's so easy to say, isn't it? But just stop killing each other, do you know what I mean? This whole, the whole genocide thing's going to come up, I reckon, and obviously I still don't fully understand it. Like, I think Palestine obviously don't think Israel have a right to exist. Is that right? Or it might even be the other way around, guys. I'm not 100%. So I don't want to go too much into it. I don't want to say the wrong thing because I'm not very educated on it. However, I am educated on people being conspiracy theory to the max. And this guy, for me, the clips that I saw of this interview made me think, yeah, this guy is seriously conspiracy theoried. And from what Piers Morgan's just said about him being an Instagram guy and what now he's doing all this sort of stuff, he used to sleep with 9 women a day. Just red pill, innit? Red pill sort of stuff. So I don't know. This I just want to make that clear because I don't want to say that if I say the wrong thing, I'm sorry, but it's just my opinion. Right, let's go.
Hamas was killed by the IDF. You were out lauding him as a hero. To most people, he's the despicable head of a terrorist organization that perpetrated on October the 7th one of the worst terror attacks in modern history. What's What's heroic
Obviously,
about that?
disgusting what happened October 7th.
I think when you look at it in a vacuum, it's a very different picture. It's kind of like if I, raped your mother and I kicked you in the nuts 3 times and then you punched me in the face and everybody just wanted to focus on you punching me in the face. I think that would be a very different conversation than when you looked at it, the whole of what happened. And the whole of what happened was Nakba. That's where it started. You have 750,000 Palestinians that got displaced. And then you've got multiple, acts of terror, in my opinion, on Israel's side that would make October 7th look like nothing. So to me, I think it was a retaliation, and I think that Hamas is a resistance organization, and I think that Israel is a terrorist.
When did Israel kill 1,200 people in a single day and wound nearly 7,000?
Well, I mean, you have, Nakba, there was, 15,000 people killed during Nakba. I mean, there was Sabra and Shatila. I mean, that was 3,500 civilians. Then you have 2014, they killed 1,500 civilians, 500 plus were kids. I mean, so any one of those days would have been much worse than October 7th, but nobody really talks about
those
that.
didn't happen in a single day.
And October 7th is not nearly as bad as what they say.
Well, those didn't happen in single days, as you know.
Well, I mean, you have, Sabra and Shatila.
By the way, when he says October 7th wasn't nearly as bad as what they say, what he's saying is there was obviously there was loads of R word that happened, but people that are on the Palestinian side are saying it never happened. So I don't know if they're saying it never happened, but they're denying that loads of R words happened that day. But as we know, in war, it unfortunately does happen. So. And it 100% happened. There's people telling their stories of it. There was even a guy that got R-worded. Obviously, I can't actually say the word on social media. But I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, that was 3,500 people. So that was basically 7 October 7ths. And October 7th, I think the numbers get inflated a lot, too, because you're not taking into account that it was only 650 civilians. And there was the Hannibal Directive that was employed, and the Hannibal Directive is when the military is basically killing civilians so that they aren't taken as hostages. And, that had to be hundreds of people. So I would argue that it was less than 500 civilians that were killed. And to me, that is much less than what, the Israelis have been doing to the Palestinians.
But you said
the year when October 7th happened, they had killed, hundreds of Palestinians that year. It was the bloodiest year for kids. So that was a reply to what had been happening.
But when you say that October 7th wasn't as bad as people have said, what do you mean by that? Because from Hamas's own boasting through their GoPro cameras, they mutilated, burned alive, raped and abused, beheaded some people, set fire to homes, they kidnapped babies, they kidnapped Holocaust survivors, grandparents. They did just about every act of depravity it is possible to do. And they didn't just do it, they gleefully posted it on
Let's see what he says. What do you reckon he's going to say back to this?
Watch in real time the horrors that they were perpetrating. It's hard to imagine a more horrific act than what happened that day. Why would you try to downplay it?
Well, I mean, there was only 2 babies killed from what I was told, and one was in the hospital, and the other one was shot by a bullet. There was no babies in ovens. There was no, beheaded people that I saw. The rapes were disproven. So all that was
they weren't.
Propaganda. And the problem is Israel has continued to lie and lie and lie, and they've been caught lying. And they're the only ones that have actually been caught red-handed raping prisoners. And they've done it, and the people that raped the prisoners were now heroes, and they got released, and there was nothing that happened to them. So I think it's very hypocritical to focus on things that they're doing and then try and blame them, on Hamas or the Palestinians.
It's interesting because,
it's just, to me, total bullshit. It's just Israeli propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, listen, many people will listen to you and think that what you're spewing is bullshit propaganda from the other side. And the reason I say that is you say there was no raping or abuse of women, and yet the UN Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, Pramila Patten, reported in March this year that there was clear and convincing information that Israeli hostages in Gaza experienced sexual violence, including rape, sexualized torture, and cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment, and reasonable grounds to believe such abuse is ongoing. There was also reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence occurred during the 7th of October attacks in multiple locations across Gaza periphery, including rape and gang rape in at least 3 locations. So when you say it didn't happen, what you're really saying is you think that the United Nations report into all this, which established it absolutely did happen and was horrific, is what? Is a pack of lies? And if so, why would the United Nations lie?
Sounds like Ojo time.
Look, I wasn't there, but I have, seen articles that said that it did not happen. So, if it did happen, that's terrible. And I think that's, atrocious. I don't ever believe in rape, but, during, Sabra and Shatia, there was a, girl raped in front of her father. And, that's happened on the other side numerous times. I mean, it happened in the prison. I mean, they were literally rioting because they felt like they had the right to rape these prisoners. So,
so he believes when it's the other way around. But because he read in an article it didn't happen to the Israelis by the Palestinians, that means it didn't happen. Right, got ya.
To me, I think it's a bit hypocritical. You can't believe that you have the right to rape prisoners and then complain about them raping, your civilians as well. So I don't think it just can only go one way. I think it's atrocious on both sides.
You said Hamas are not terrorists, they're an army fighting for their country against the worst terror organization on the planet. And yet Hamas were given power in Gaza in 2005. They were given billions of dollars, a lot of it in a very suspect manner by Benjamin Netanyahu and his government, because he wanted to create a rift between Palestinian groups, and I completely accept that. But there's no doubt from what has now emerged that Hamas spent most of that money not on benefiting the lives of Palestinian people in Gaza, but on building an elaborate tunnel system and arming themselves to the teeth.
And if people are watching this video and they think I'm on Israel's side, like I said at the start, I don't know, like, I'm not very educated on it, but I do have my own opinions. And what I will say is that bloody, the Prime Minister, President, who, whatever he is, Netanyahu, whatever his name is, from Israel, is I would describe him as a terrorist guy. Like, do you know what I mean? What he's done to the Palestinians is disgusting. Vice versa as well, like the other way around. So I just want to make that clear as well.
So that they could perpetrate this act of horror on October the 7th in a strike against Israel that they hope would decapitate Israel. I'm just curious why you would go out of your way. You say you've read things, but you're a guy of big influence. You've got a big following, 30-odd million people on Instagram. With respect, and I say this respectfully, I understand why you want to support the Palestinian cause, and I'm sure there'll be many points of agreement we would have on that. But just to say, well, I read somewhere there were no rapes and abuse, it doesn't seem to me like you've really studied, or perhaps don't even want to study, the facts about all this, because it would go against your own narrative. Would that be fair?
I mean, look, I got no dog in this fight, Piers. I'm not Palestinian. I'm not Muslim. I'm just saying what I believe is right. And let's just say there was rapes. I mean, I think that's terrible. But like I said, they are, an occupied state, and they're operating in apartheid. So when you are kept in an open air prison, there's going to be resistance, and how that resistance manifests itself is, it's going to be violent eventually. I mean, if you kill enough people and you take enough land and you treat people like second-class citizens, and and you're stealing land in the West Bank, and you're just basically encroaching these people's human rights on a daily basis, there's going to be repercussions. So I'm not going to be the judge or jury, and I'm not going to condemn these people for fighting back. I think nobody had an issue with South African apartheid and their resistance, so I don't know why there's an issue with the resistance in the clear apartheid that's going on here.
You went on a Patrick Bet-Davis podcast. He's a friend of this show. You said the Jews killed JFK and that Israel wanted October the 7th to happen so that Israel, had a reason to take the land. Let's just discuss those two things. What do you mean the Jews killed JFK?
So I believe that that was an Israeli Mossad operation, and they've committed multiple false flag attacks. I mean, they've, you know, the USS Liberty, you've got the Levin affair. I mean, so they've got a history of doing this, and I don't think it's crazy to think that they were involved in that assassination, and that's the reason that Trump didn't want to, you know, release those files. And I think clearly it had to be embarrassing. Otherwise, why wouldn't he want to release it? And that's the only thing that I could think of that would be embarrassing, because everybody from that time is pretty much dead by now. So it would make sense. I mean, they wanted to cut off, you know, it's now AIPAC, but the, you know, the Zionist, you know, organization that was doing all the funding that should have been registered as a foreign entity. And, you know, he wanted to register them under FARA. He wanted to, you know, take away their ability to have nukes. And, you know, they didn't like that. So I believe that they killed JFK.
But just to be clear, I mean, you have absolutely no evidence that any Jews killed JFK, do you? Nothing.
Well, I mean, that's not true. I mean, Jack Rubenstein, that was the person that killed the supposed Patsy Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, he was a Jewish mob guy. And, you know, there's been numerous documentaries tying the, you know, Jewish mafia, the CIA. I mean, look, I mean, I wasn't there, but everything that I've seen evidence-wise points to Israel.
Really?
And, you know, they're doing it in Epstein Island. They did it in Epstein Island. I mean, they've...
Yeah, but here's the problem I have with this. You say everything you've seen, right? It just seems to me like you see a lot of conspiracy theory stuff. I've read a lot about the JFK assassination. There is zero evidence that any Jews killed John F. Kennedy. Zero. Unless you want to go off into some mad conspiracy theory rabbit hole. And again, I say to you that...
But like I said, that's exactly what I said right there. This guy, I saw clips earlier. He is a massive conspiracy theorist, like juiced up conspiracy theorist, red pill, woke, all at the same time.
You make these big statements, and you have a huge following of people, many of whom will think, well, wow, if Dan Bilzerian says it, maybe it's true. And that way, I would argue, this is how a lot of conspiracy theory stuff in the end gets propagated and promoted to the detriment of society. Because people like you who are very smart, there's no question of that, and very successful, and made a lot of money being very successful. I'm just curious why you want to be so inflammatory without actually having any evidence. And as you say, you know, to just sit back and say, well, I wasn't there. Well, I wasn't there. Obviously, I wasn't even born. But I know that there were there's no credible evidence that Jewish people killed JFK. And yet you just say it as a fact, as if somehow we should just believe this.
No, I didn't say it as a fact. I said that's what I believe. And if you look at, you know, the history of people that have criticized Israel, you know, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, JFK, Nixon, I mean, you know, they all have similar fates. And so I don't think that's a coincidence. I also think that today a lot of, you know, quote unquote conspiracy theories have all come true. So, you know, about, you know, 2-3 years ago, being a conspiracy theorist, you know, you were a nut job, wacko, whatever. And now it's just like every single one of them seems to be coming true, coming to fruition. So I don't know. I mean, I think once you see the government lie to you and lie to you on a scale like they did during COVID, you start questioning a lot of things. I think it's healthy to question things. And I think...
Oh, God, here we go. The COVID conspiracy theory, here we go.
I think one of the big reasons why I've marched down this path so far is because once I started questioning Israel and once I started speaking out against Israel, I saw the ramifications and I saw the pushback. And the side of right is usually never the side that's silencing people. You know, the people that are on the right side of history are not the ones trying to, you know, cut off free speech or punish people for what they say.
You think the Jews killed Gaddafi as well?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, Israel, I think that they have way too much control in our government. And I think it is not coincidence that everybody that's been critical of Israel has, you know, either been overthrown, you know, Shah of Iran, like every single person that's been critical of Israel has either been killed or thrown out of power. And I don't think that that is a coincidence. I mean, you know, the reason we fought a lot of these wars is because of Israel. I mean, Israel lied to us. They told us that there was weapons of mass destruction. You know, we fought many wars on their behalf. So their influence cannot be, you know, disputed. And the people that we continuously fight just happen to be their natural enemies. And they have influence on what we do. And that's my biggest issue. That's actually one of the reasons why I kind of like started marching down this path, is because I see how much control Israel has over our government, and it's not healthy. And I see our politicians acting on behalf of Israel instead of on behalf of what is best for the United States. And that is, you know, as a veteran, where I really have fucking, you know, huge problems with this.
I'm sure you do, but when you say that what was it you said? That Jewish people said there were weapons of mass destruction. I mean, it was President Bush. He's not Jewish. It was Colin Powell. He wasn't Jewish, as far as I'm aware. What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you're talking about 0.2% of the population. So obviously every single person in there is not Jewish, but it is benefiting Jewish interests, and we are operating on behalf of Israel. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying all of our politicians are Jewish, obviously, but what I am saying is that Israel has dirt and blackmail on our politicians. That's the only way to explain why they put the interests of Israel above our countries. And you see that. I mean, look, I truly believe that Epstein Island was a Mossad operation, and they have dirt on our politicians, and they've done plenty of these, and that is why they control our country. I mean, explain it out. Why else would our country be doing everything in Israel's benefit to our own detriment? Israel doesn't do anything for us. Why would we be doing that?
But we know why America, and the UK for that matter, Tony Blair, because I spoke to him about it at length at the time. We know why they went to war with Saddam Hussein in 2003. They went because they believed he had weapons of mass destruction. They were the ones who argued it. None of the senior people that argued it for America or the UK, in terms of Tony Blair, George Bush, Colin Powell, were Jewish. This idea that somehow Israel was orchestrating that war, I think, is completely nonsensical. I mean, my brother fought in that war for the British Army. He wasn't ordered into that war by Israel. It was a decision taken by George Bush and Tony Blair. It just seems to me that when people have accused you, if they have, of being anti-Semitic, this is the reason why. Is because you look everywhere for a reason to blame Israel for absolutely everything, even when there's no evidence that it was Israel involved in the actual orders that were taken. There is no evidence that Israel ordered the Iraq war. It was taken by George Bush's administration with the help of people like Tony Blair.
Well, we went there because Netanyahu testified in front of Congress that they had
Piers.
weapons of mass destruction, which was a total lie, and it was a lie to benefit Israel because that was an enemy of Israel. So what I'm saying is they're the beneficiary of what we are doing, and it's not in the best interest of the United States. So clearly they've got control over our politicians.
Yeah, to be clear again, though,
I'm not saying our politicians are Jewish. I'm saying our politicians are doing what they're telling them to do.
Right. Well, that's slightly different to what you did say. And you said on Patrick Bet-David's podcast as well, they play the victim card so effing much about Jewish people. I mean, do you not understand why Jewish people might feel a sense of victimhood, given that 6 million of them were killed in World War II by a genocidal monster in the Holocaust? Do you not understand why that might make Jewish people feel that, yes, they have indeed been victims?
This is the clip that I saw.
Been revised, but you know, I believe that Jewish supremacy is the greatest threat to America, and I think it's the greatest
Oh
threat
my
to the world.
God.
I truly believe.
Shut up.
What do you mean
Idiot.
the figure's been revised? What do you mean?
Well, they said that it was 4 million that died in Auschwitz, and then they said it was down to 1 million. So they've revised the figure.
Well, how many people? How many people do you think were killed in the Holocaust?
271,000 that died in Auschwitz.
How many do you think were killed in the Holocaust?
I don't know, but I would bet my entire net worth that it was under 6 million.
Again, I simply ask you, Dan, what's the motivation for making claims like that? What do you stand to gain by trying to diminish what happened in World War II?
I'm just answering your question. I mean, I'm a gambler, so if I think that something is a low probability, then I would bet on it. And I don't know for a fact, but the evidence all says that it was less than 6 million. I mean, just the mathematics don't work. Like, you can't cremate that many bodies. Like the whole gas chamber thing, it's a very
I gotta be honest, I don't really get why people always bark on about the numbers, because it's clear that Hitler, the crazy man that wanted all Jews dead, was on a path of total genocidal on all Jewish people, right? Pretty sure it was Jewish. I think it might have been other minorities as well. But when people bark on about a number, it's like, who cares what? Even if it was only 1,000, 100, one person, it is very clear that Hitler and the Nazis wanted Jewish people gone, like dead. So really doesn't matter, does it? But for him to say that the numbers of what he obviously just doesn't believe 6 million, 100%. You can't put an exact number on it. Because I've watched like documentaries about it and stuff. But it doesn't matter. Like, this guy is coming across so anti-Semitic. It's crazy.
An effective way to kill people. So when people have researched this and they've done the due diligence, they said it's mathematically impossible.
You see, I'm sorry, but I just find that unbelievably offensive. And I'm not even Jewish. You know, again, there is clear evidence that 6 million people, almost predominantly Jewish, were killed in the Holocaust. 12 million were killed by the Nazis in total. You know, they were a genocidal monstrosity of the Nazis who wanted to eliminate the Jewish people.
Yeah.
And they tried extremely hard to do that.
You said 12 million were killed?
The Nazis killed 12 million people in World War II. 6 million were killed in
You said 12?
6 million were killed in the Holocaust. Or do you not believe that either?
Okay. I mean, Jews have killed far more Christians. Well, Jews have killed far more. Let's just accept the 6 million figure. Jews have killed far more Christians than that. I mean, it's not even close. If you look at the Bolshevik genocide, you look at the Holodomor, I mean, they've killed way more Christians. I mean, they basically invented the genocide. So, you know, they deny the Armenian genocide. Israel denies that. They've lobbied the U.S. to deny that. I'm Armenian. They killed half of my people. So, you know, and I'm not offended by that. You know, if somebody questions that, it's not some crazy thing. I mean, Israel denies the Armenian Holocaust. Okay.
It sounds to me, Dan, like you do actually hate Jewish people.
I don't know about any of that, so...
No, I believe that Jewish supremacy is the greatest threat to the world today. I look at what they're doing in the media. They're pushing this transgender nonsense. I mean, and they did it in Germany. The first transgender clinic was opened by a Jewish guy. And I don't like this perversion pushed on our children. I don't like the fact that 9-year-olds are reading about homosexual acts. I don't like that drag queens are reading them in schools. I don't...
Now, this is where it's going to be a bit controversial, in my opinion. I agree with what he's saying here. I don't think... I wouldn't say it's perverted, because I love all people, whether you're trans, gay, straight, whatever. And it's not perverted, but I do believe that these things shouldn't be taught to kids. They shouldn't be allowed to have operations before they reach adulthood, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about that, but that's just my opinion. And I do believe drag queens shouldn't be reading to kids, because it can muck up a kid's brain, can't it? So yeah, that's a bit, just my opinion. Let's carry on.
I don't like that Kamala Harris wants to pay for sex changes in prison so that men can turn into women and women can turn into men. And I don't like the fact that he's putting in, you know, men into
that
women's
is
prisons,
crazy, to be
male
fair.
rapists into women's prisons because they identify as women. I mean, it's just nonsense. I don't like
That is
you know,
nonsense.
men beating up women in boxing and sports. I think it's all nonsense, and I think it's leading to a degradation of moral fiber. And if left unchecked, I think it's going to ruin the world.
But again, you're blaming Jewish people. Why?
Because they're pushing this.
What do you mean they're pushing?
That I
What are you
don't
talking
agree
about?
with.
The magic of Gusto is its variety of cuisines. We get to try.
Well,
Well, what he said, I need to clear something up. He said, didn't he, just a few minutes ago, the first transgender clinic was opened by a Jewish person in Germany. See, that's where his conspiracy thing comes into it, because even if it was by a Jewish person, that means the Jewish people are responsible for transgendering. Crazy.
I mean, they're controlling the media. I mean, the DEI is being pushed by BlackRock. BlackRock's execs are all Jewish. You know, you look at where this is coming from. It's not a surprise.
Dan,
All the Disney execs are Jewish.
Dan,
They're pushing it on children.
Right. Do you accept, Dan, that you are just blatantly anti-Semitic?
Look, I have an issue with that term. I mean, I think the real Semites are the Palestinians. I mean, they you know, the DNA test that they've done on the Israelis that are living over there, they're Eastern European Ashkenazi Jews. I don't even think they're actual Semites. They don't have ancient Hebrew DNA, which is why DNA testing is illegal in Israel.
But, I mean, you're literally denying their existence now. I mean, you are just a brazen anti-Semite, aren't you? You hate Jewish people. You hate Israel. You hate the state of Israel, its government, everything about it. You're blaming them you blame them in this interview for literally absolutely everything.
When you say, well, I think most of the problems today is caused by Jewish supremacy. I believe that.
I'm honestly gobsmacked that you would say all this publicly, given what a high profile you have.
Yeah, I mean, it is not a it's not a popular opinion for somebody that, you know, cares about money and cares about, you know, not being canceled. I mean, that's the problem, is you can say whatever you want against Muslims. You can be, you know, super anti-Muslim. You can talk about them and nobody cares. But if you say anything about Jewish people, you get canceled. They, you know, look what they did to Kanye. I mean, so why are they such a protected class? Let me ask you that.
I don't think they are. I think they're a class that get targeted by people like you, and indeed by Kanye, who spewed horrible anti-Semitic nonsense. But yours, it seems to me, to be more insidious, because you're literally blaming.
So you think that Kanye
with respect,
targeted
let me
them
finish.
and not the other way around?
You're literally blaming.
Well, I'm pretty sure Kanye put a tweet out, didn't he, saying "DEFCON to all Jewish people." So yeah,
Jewish people for almost everything that's happened that you don't like in the world. That is the purest personification of anti-Semitism right there. That's what it is.
Well, when you have a religion that promotes supremacy, when you have a religion that says that you are better than other people, and when you have a religion that says it's okay to steal from other people as long as they're not Jewish, when you have a religion that says it's okay to rape people that aren't Jewish, when you have a religion that talks about having sex with, you know, kids that are under 3 years old, when you have a religion that promotes these things and promotes supremacy, I think you're going to have problems. And you see that in Israel. Israel is a manifestation of that religion. And I think that religion...
But let's just get it right. Christian Bible says that men should be allowed to marry any age girls, or like when they get their first period or whatever it was. Homophobic is not allowed, is a sin. All but but I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God and all that. Like, the fact that all these wars start because of religion, you know, it's crazy. Just think about all the wars that start, yeah. Most of it is because of religion. These religious people believe in a book that was written over, what, 2,000 years ago, whatever it was, even longer in most cases. It's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy, mate.
is, you know, it's terrible. I don't believe in white supremacy. I don't believe in Jewish supremacy. I don't believe in supremacy at all. And right now, I think you have massive Jewish supremacy.
You sound like a Nazi.
I mean, why do you say that?
That's literally what Nazis would have said in World War II. They would have literally articulated their hatred of Jewish people and the reasons why in exactly the way you've just done.
I don't have a hatred for Jewish people.
You do.
Well,
I don't
shut
like a
up.
religion that
Clearly
says
you
that they're
do.
better than other people. And what's that?
Well, you do. You obviously do. It's blatant. No one watching this will draw any other conclusion. I'm staggered about how brazen you've been.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't like it when people think they're better than other people. And you see that in Israel, and they're acting like that, and they're treating Palestinians like second-class citizens. They're treating them like subhuman beasts, and it sells that in their Talmud. So it says if you are not a Jew, that you are basically subhuman. And I don't think that Judaism and Christianity go hand in hand. I mean, they believe that Jesus is in hell burning in human shit, and they believe that the Virgin Mary is a whore. So I don't think those are two religions that really intersect very well. But we've been programmed that they do, and we've been programmed that it's okay and that Jews are the chosen people, and I just disagree with that. I think everybody's equal.
Do you even comprehend how this interview is going to play out when it airs?
Dan Bilzerian. Like I said at the start, I don't know much about this guy. Clearly, he's got a lot of money. Got a lot of. He's a big influencer. Apparently, he's got over 30 mil on Instagram. I've never heard of him. I think I've seen him. I saw some clips earlier today. That's why I've watched this video. But it's sort of the same with these people that have loads of money in it. They always want to start just talking about whatever the current affair is to get some popularity, get some more fans from other places. But this guy clearly just has loads of money. Doesn't post on Instagram anymore, so he's starting to build up a new platform, I guess. But he is definitely anti-Semitic. That's what I've taken from this.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be bad, but my opinion is not politically correct, but I believe that is the truth.
You're living in Qatar now.
Well, that's where I'm at right now. I'm not living here, but visiting.
Right? Is it the case that you feel safer to spew this kind of stuff from Qatar than you would spewing it in the United States?
Did you know Experian is the UK's most trusted credit score? You can download the app for free.
Well, I mean, I've had a lot of Jewish people attack me since I started standing up in support of Palestine. When I started saying things that were against Israel, I found that I had my Jewish business manager tried to extort me. I had lawyers do things that were illegal, and I found a lot of just hatred from the Jewish community because I was speaking out against a genocide, and that really opened my eyes to what's going on.
You know why Jewish people?
Like I said, rarely is it the case that people on the right side of history are the ones that are trying to silence people.
Yeah, the reason Jewish people may dislike you is because of your obvious hatred for them and everything they stand for. I mean, you've literally spent the last 20 minutes on an anti-Semitic rant that makes Kanye look like a choir boy. I'm staggered, but also bemused as to what you think you'll gain from this, other than you're just laying bare your anti-Semitism for everyone to see.
I don't think I'm going to gain anything. I think it'll be horrible for me, but it's what I believe. I don't think that Jews like Christians, and you see it when they killed them during the Holodomor, the Bolshevik genocide. I mean, the Bolsheviks, the leadership was 84% Jewish, and they were just mass killing Christians, and nobody.
So he doesn't know if this actually took place, because if we're going by what he thinks, you should not believe everything that you read in that. So
he talks about that.
Interesting.
Let me just ask you one more time. Let me just ask you one more time to be honest.
History books don't cover that.
Right, let me just ask you one more time, just for clarity. I think you should be honest. But do you hate Jewish people?
No, I don't.
Yeah, lies.
Then why do you spew such hatred about them?
Well, I don't like what they've done. I don't like what their religion preaches. I don't like what's going on in Israel. I don't like their influence over our government. So,
Conspiracy
what
theory
do you
again.
like about Jewish people?
I mean, I would say on average they're more intelligent.
That's it.
I mean, I don't have too many. I mean, look, there's 2 billion Muslims, but everybody wants to, promote this anti-Muslim, this hatred for Muslim, like they're all, these terrorists. And I think the Israelis are the terrorists. I think they are the ones perpetuating the big acts of terrorism. And, nobody wants to talk about that.
On Piers hitting with something.
And what do you say to Jewish people who may watch this and be utterly horrified by what they're hearing?
They can be horrified. I mean, I was horrified to find that they mass murdered Christians. I was horrified to learn the things that they teach in the Talmud. I was horrified that they think that Jesus is burning in shit in hell. I was horrified that they think that the Virgin Mary is a whore. I was horrified to learn that they think it's okay to steal from Gentiles. I was horrified to hear that there's, 2 sets of justice. I was horrified to find out that they think it's okay to, gang rape Palestinian prisoners. I was horrified about all those things. I'm horrified that we're funding a genocide right now. So they can be horrified.
Dan Bilzerian.
Wow. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments about that. But for me, oh, 1 second.
Hey.
Yeah, for me, guys, this man is clearly a conspiracy theory brain dead. He says he doesn't believe, you shouldn't believe everything that you read on that, but then when it comes to vice versa, like from the side that he is on, you believe it. So, anti-Semitic, millionaire, doesn't know what to do with his life, so he just spews rubbish online. And like I said, guys, at the start, I'm not Jewish. I don't have a side. I just believe that everyone should just stop fighting. As easy as it sounds. But guys, yeah, what a loser.